This is HOA mess. It started with a parking warning and ended with a tow truck ambush. I pull into my driveway after a 12-hour shift at the municipal garage, and before I can even cut the engine, Lisa is already marching across the street with her tow yard claim ticket booklet open like it is a search warrant. "You are out of time," she snaps, jabbing a finger at my windshield. "Your permit decal is invalid, your plate is filthy, and I am calling the tow company right now. This car is an eyesore, and I can tow an eyesore just like any other violation." I stare at her through the glass, my brain still half in work mode, and I realize she is dead serious. I live in Vancouver, Washington, in a place called Redwood Landing HOA Incorporated, and the board has been on a tow first, ask questions never crusade for the last 6 months. Lisa is the board secretary, and she controls every scrap of paperwork that moves through this neighborhood. The stakes are real for me because I am in the middle of refinancing my house, and any lien threat could wreck the entire deal. I cannot afford a single bogus fine landing on my credit report right now. I step out of the car and hold up my hands. "Lisa, the decal is right there on the windshield. You can see it." She flips a page in her booklet and shakes her head. "It is crooked. That makes it invalid. And your plate is too dirty for me to verify the permit system cross-reference. You do not get an opinion, you get a fine schedule." I glance at my license plate, and yeah, it has a thin layer of road dust from the last week of rain. But you can still read every character. I work as a fleet mechanic for the city, and I know what an unreadable plate looks like. This is not it. I try to keep my voice calm. "Lisa, this is my assigned spot. I have lived here for 2 years. I have never missed an HOA payment." She clicks a pen in her hand, the sound sharp and deliberate, and gives me a tight smile. "We can tow first and explain later. That is how enforcement works." Then she turns and walks back toward the community entrance, already pulling out her phone. I stand there for a second trying to process what just happened, and then I see her stop under the entrance awning and make a call. My stomach drops because I know she is not bluffing. This neighborhood has a reputation. The board calls everything a towable offense, and they have an arrangement with a local tow vendor who does not ask too many questions. I have heard stories from neighbors about cars getting hooked in the middle of the night over expired guest passes or someone parking 6 inches over the line. The management company that technically oversees the HOA has been hands-off for years, and Lisa has turned that into her personal power base. She runs the records, she writes the notices, and she decides what counts as a violation. I pull out my phone and scroll back through my emails, looking for anything that spells out the permit rules. The last update I got from the HOA was 3 months ago, and it said that all residents with valid decals would be grandfathered in under the new parking policy as long as the decal was visible. Mine is visible. It is just slightly crooked because I applied it myself and the adhesive grabbed at a weird angle. I screenshot that email and forward it to myself as a backup. Then I walk over to the entrance lane where Lisa is still on the phone. I can hear her saying something about a priority tow and giving my address. I step into her line of sight and she holds up one finger like I am interrupting something important. When she hangs up, I try again. "Lisa, I have the email that says my decal is valid. Do you want me to forward it to you?" She flips another page in her booklet and taps it with her pen. The email does not override my discretion as enforcement officer. "If I determine that your decal placement creates ambiguity, I can flag it for non-compliance. You do not get an opinion, you get a fine schedule." She repeats the line like it is a magic spell, and I feel my jaw tighten. I take a breath and decide not to escalate this on the street. Instead, I pull out my phone again and take a photo of her standing there with the booklet, then a photo of my car in the driveway with the decal clearly visible. She notices and frowns. "What are you doing?" I keep my voice even. "Documenting the condition of my vehicle and your statements, just in case." Her face hardens, and she steps closer, lowering her voice. "You think you are clever, but this is my neighborhood. I control the paperwork. If I say you are in violation, you are in violation." I walk back to my driveway and check the time. It is almost 5 in the afternoon, and the management office closes at 5:30. If I am going to file a formal dispute, I need to get a packet together and deliver it in person before they lock the doors. That is my one shot, because after hours everything goes through Lisa, and she will bury it. I go inside and fire up my laptop, pulling together every email, every payment receipt, every rule update the HOA has ever sent me. I print out the key pages and stuff them into a manila folder. Then I grab my keys and head for the car, but when I step outside, there is already a flatbed tow truck idling at the curb with its amber lights flashing. The driver is out of the cab talking to Lisa near the back of my car. I jog over and the driver looks up. "You the owner?" I nod. "Yeah. What is going on?" He gestures to Lisa. "She called in a priority tow. Says the vehicle is in violation." I hold up the folder. "I have all my paperwork right here. My permit is valid." The driver scratches his head and looks at Lisa. She taps her booklet. The decal is improperly placed and the plate is unverifiable. I have the authority to request removal. The driver glances at my car and then back at her. "Look, I can see the decal from here. And the plate is readable. I am not hooking a car without clear cause." Lisa clicks her pen again, the sound almost frantic now, and her voice goes sharp. "If you refuse this tow, I will report you to the vendor coordinator and you will lose your contract with this HOA. We can tow first and explain later. That is how enforcement works." The driver looks at me, then at her, and finally shakes his head. "I am not doing this without a signed authorization from the management company. If you want this car moved, get me a signature." Then he climbs back into the cab and drives off, leaving Lisa standing there with her booklet half open and her face turning red. I do not say anything. I just get in my car and drive straight to the management office, folder in hand, praying they are still open. I make it with 5 minutes to spare. The receptionist at the management office looks tired, and when I explain that I need to file a dispute over a threatened tow, she sighs and pulls out a form. "You need to fill this out and attach supporting documents." I slide the folder across the counter. "Already done." She flips through it, nods, and stamps the first page with a received mark. "Okay. We will review this and respond within 10 business days." I feel a tiny knot loosen in my chest. 10 days is not great, but at least I have a paper trail now. I thank her and head back to my car. On the drive home, I call my friend Jake, who works at the courthouse downtown. He has helped me navigate city permitting red tape before, and I figure he might have advice on dealing with an HOA dispute. Jake picks up on the third ring and listens while I give him the rundown. When I finish, he lets out a low whistle. "Man, that is wild." Okay, first thing, document everything. Every conversation, every threat, every notice. If she tries to tow again, call the non-emergency police line and ask for an officer to come document the scene. If you can prove she is acting outside the HOA rules, you can file in small claims and go after her personally, not just the association. I thank him and hang up, feeling a little more grounded. I have a plan now. I am going to keep records, stay calm, and let her dig her own hole. But when I pull back into my driveway, there is a bright orange sticker plastered across my windshield. It has a generic warning icon and a bunch of text I cannot read from inside the car, but I know exactly what it is. I get out and peel it off. The adhesive is strong and leaves a sticky residue on the glass. The text on the sticker says something about unauthorized parking and a 72-hour notice to comply, but the weird thing is that my car is parked in my own assigned spot, not a guest space or a fire lane. I take photos of the sticker, front and back, and then I see Lisa watching me from across the street, arms folded, that same tight smile on her face. I walk over and hold up the sticker. Lisa, this is my assigned spot. You cannot issue a 72-hour notice on my own driveway. She clicks her pen and tilts her head. The notice is for the non-compliant decal, not the location. You have 72 hours to replace the decal with a properly aligned one, or the vehicle will be subject to removal. I feel my pulse start to pound in my ears. Where exactly am I supposed to get a new decal? She shrugs. The office. But they are closed now. And you only have 72 hours. I stare at her, trying to figure out if she actually believes this or if she is just messing with me. Either way, I am not going to win an argument on the street. I take another photo, this time of her standing there with the booklet, and then I go inside. That night, I cannot sleep. I keep thinking about the refinance paperwork sitting on my kitchen counter and the fact that any lien or unresolved dispute could tank the whole thing. My lender already warned me that HOA issues are a red flag, and if Lisa files some kind of formal violation with the county, it could show up in the title search. I get up at 2 in the morning and start drafting an email to the management company, laying out the timeline and attaching all the photos and documents I have collected so far. I hit send and try to get a few hours of rest before my next shift. The next morning, I get a reply from the management company. It is short and frustrating. We have received your dispute and will investigate. In the meantime, please comply with all posted notices to avoid further escalation. That is it. No acknowledgement that Lisa is acting outside the rules, no promise to intervene, just a bland instruction to comply. I feel the anger start to build again, but I force myself to stay focused. Jake told me to document everything, so that is what I am going to do. I spend the rest of the morning taking detailed photos of my car, the decal, the license plate, and the driveway. I measure the angle of the decal with a protractor app on my phone and find that it is only off by about 3 degrees. I pull up the HOA rule document and search for any language about decal placement. There is nothing. The rules just say that decals must be visible and current. Mine is both. I compile all of this into a new folder and make a second copy, just in case. That afternoon, I get a knock on my door. It is my neighbor from 2 houses down, a guy named Marcus who keeps to himself most of the time. He looks uncomfortable. Hey man, I just wanted to let you know that this happened to me too. Last year, Lisa said my guest had parked in a fire lane, but it was just a regular spot with faded paint. She had them towed in the middle of the night, and I had to pay $300 to get the car out of the yard. I filed a complaint, but the management company said it was a judgment call, and they backed her up. I feel a chill run through me. Did you ever get the money back? He shakes his head. Nah, I just stopped having guests over. It was not worth the fight. He gives me a sympathetic look and walks away. That conversation stays with me for the rest of the day. If Marcus just gave up, how many other people did the same thing? And how long has Lisa been getting away with this? I start thinking about the bigger picture. This is not just about my car anymore. This is about a pattern of abuse, and I have a feeling that if I can prove it, I can force the management company to act. I go back through my email archives and find a thread from the neighborhood group chat that I barely ever check. I scroll back 6 months and start reading. It does not take long to find what I am looking for. There are multiple residents complaining about surprise tows, aggressive enforcement, and unclear rules. One person says they got fined for parking in a guest spot overnight because Lisa decided it counted as long-term storage. Another person says their permit decal was rejected because it was the wrong shade of blue, even though it came directly from the HOA office. And then I find the smoking gun. It is a message from Lisa herself posted in the group chat during a late-night argument about guest parking. She writes, "We can tow first and explain later. That is how enforcement works. If people do not like it, they can move." I screenshot the entire thread and add it to my evidence folder. If you are enjoying this wild ride, hit that like button and subscribe for more HOA revenge stories. But I am not done digging. I keep scrolling, and I find another thread from 2 weeks ago where someone asks about appealing a fine. Lisa responds with a long message that basically says appeals have to be submitted in a format approved by the board. But the format is not published anywhere. It is a catch-22. You cannot appeal unless you know the format, and you cannot know the format unless the board tells you, and the board is Lisa. I take another screenshot. Then, I find something even worse. There is a message from a guy named Ron who used to be on the board. He resigned 6 months ago and posted a goodbye message in the group chat. In it, he says he could not in good conscience continue serving because the board was using enforcement as a revenue tool and targeting residents who complained. He does not name Lisa directly, but the timing lines up. I screenshot that too. I am starting to feel like I have a real case here, but I know I need something that directly ties Lisa to the current situation. I need proof that she is targeting me specifically, not just enforcing bad rules. I spend the next hour combing through my email again, and finally I find it. Buried in a forwarded message chain is an email from the HOA attorney to the board, sent about 3 weeks ago. The subject line is Warning Reinforcement Procedures. I open it and my jaw drops. The attorney is telling the board to stop issuing tow orders without clear documentation and signed authorization from the management company. He says that the current process is legally questionable and could expose the HOA to liability. And then, at the bottom of the email, there is a reply from Lisa. She writes, "Noted. But we will continue enforcement as needed to maintain standards. If management does not like it, they can hire someone else." I sit back and stare at the screen. This is it. This is the proof I need. The HOA attorney told them to stop, and Lisa ignored him. That means she knew she was acting outside the rules, and she did it anyway. I forward the email to myself and print 3 copies. Then I called Jake again. "Man, you are not going to believe this. I just found an email from the HOA attorney warning them to stop, and Lisa basically told him to shove it." Jake laughs. "Oh, that is gold. That is actual evidence of intent. If you can get that in front of a judge, you are going to destroy her." Okay, Here is what you do. Keep that email safe. Do not delete it. Do not lose it. And the next time she tries anything, call the cops immediately and hand them a copy. Make sure they document it in an incident report. That way, if this goes to court, you have a paper trail showing that the police were aware of the problem. I thank Jake and hang up, feeling like I finally have a plan that might actually work. But I also know that Lisa is not going to back down. She has too much invested in being the enforcement queen, and she is going to escalate. I just need to be ready. The next day, I get a letter in the mail from the HOA. It is a formal notice of violation, and it lists 3 separate issues. 1. The decal is improperly aligned. 2. The license plate is obscured by dirt. 3. The vehicle is parked in a designated area without valid authorization. The third one makes no sense at all, because my driveway is my designated area. The letter says I have 48 hours to cure the violations or face a fine of $200 per day. It is signed by Lisa, with her title listed as Board Secretary and Compliance Officer. I read it twice to make sure I am not missing something, and then I take photos of every page. The letter is dated 2 days ago, which means I only have about a day left to respond. I grab my folder and drive straight back to the management office. This time, the receptionist recognizes me. Back again? I nod. I need to file a response to this notice, and I need to request an emergency hearing with the board. She gives me a skeptical look. Emergency hearings are only granted in cases of immediate safety risk. I tap the letter. This notice says I will be fined $200 per day starting tomorrow. That is an immediate financial risk. She sighs and pulls out another form. Fill this out. I will submit it. But I cannot promise anything. I fill out the form, attach a copy of the attorney email, and hand it back. She stamps it and files it in a drawer. Okay, you will hear back within 5 business days. I shake my head. The notice says I have 48 hours. I cannot wait 5 days. She shrugs. That is the process. I walk out feeling like I am running into a brick wall. The HOA has all the power, and they are using the system to stall and bury anyone who fights back. When I get home, there is another car parked across the street with its flashers on. It is not a tow truck this time. It is a sedan with a magnetic sign on the door that says Parking Enforcement Services. A guy in a reflective vest is standing next to my car, holding some kind of handheld scanner. I walk over and he looks up. You the owner? I nod. Yeah. What are you doing? He holds up the scanner. Verifying permit compliance. Your decal is flagged in the system as non-compliant. I need to confirm the serial number. I cross my arms. Who hired you? He taps the scanner. The HOA. I am contracted through the board. I pull out my phone and start recording. Okay, show me the authorization. He hesitates, then pulls out a folded piece of paper from his pocket. It is a work order with Lisa's signature and a date from yesterday. I take a photo of it and then ask, do you have authorization from the management company? He frowns. I just have this. I shake my head. That is not enough. The HOA attorney sent a memo saying all enforcement requires management company approval. If you proceed without it, you are acting outside your contract. He stares at me for a second, then folds the paper and walks back to his car. Sorry, man, I am not getting in the middle of this. He drives off, and I stand there feeling a small surge of victory. It is not much, but it is something. But that night I get a group email from the HOA. It is sent to the entire neighborhood, and the subject line is "Important Update on Parking Enforcement." I open it, and my stomach sinks. The email is from Lisa, and it says that due to repeated non-compliance issues, the board is implementing a new policy. Starting immediately, any vehicle with a decal that does not meet placement standards will be subject to immediate removal without further notice. Guest parking will now require pre-registration 48 hours in advance. And all appeals must be submitted in writing using the official HOA dispute form, which can be obtained from the board secretary. At the bottom, there is a note that says, "Residents who interfere with enforcement personnel will be subject to fines and possible legal action." I feel my hands start to shake. This is not a policy update. This is a threat aimed directly at me. She is trying to make an example out of me, and she is using the entire neighborhood as leverage. I forward the email to Jake and call him again. This is insane. She just sent out a mass email basically saying she can tow anyone at any time for any reason. Jake is quiet for a second. Okay, this is good actually. She is overplaying her hand. If she is threatening the whole neighborhood, that means other people are going to start pushing back too. You need to rally them. Get people to file complaints with the management company. If enough residents speak up, the management company will have to act. Otherwise, they are going to get sued into oblivion. I think about Marcus and the other neighbors who have been through this. I start drafting an email to the group chat, laying out what Lisa has been doing and asking people to share their own stories. I keep it calm and factual, and I include links to the attorney email and the enforcement memo. Then I hit send. And wait. The response is immediate. Within an hour, I have a dozen replies. People are angry. One person says they got towed from a guest spot on Thanksgiving because Lisa decided the spot was reserved for board members only. Another person says they got fined $300 for having a trailer parked in their own driveway for 2 days. Someone else says they stopped going to board meetings because Lisa would shout them down and threaten to fine them for disrupting the meeting. The stories keep coming, and I realize that this has been going on for a long time. People have just been too scared or too tired to fight back. But now they are talking, and that changes everything. By the end of the night, 15 residents have agreed to file formal complaints with the management company. We coordinate the submissions so they all go in on the same day, and we include copies of the attorney email to show that the board was warned and ignored the warning. It feels like we are finally building momentum. The next morning, I wake up to the sound of a diesel engine idling outside. I look out the window and my heart sinks. There is a tow truck in my driveway, and this time the driver is already hooking the front of my car onto the lift. I grab my phone, throw on my shoes, and run outside. "Stop! What are you doing?" The driver looks up. "I have a work order. Vehicle flagged for non-compliance." I hold up my phone. "I am calling the police right now. You do not have authorization from the management company." He shrugs. "I have this." He holds up a clipboard with a work order. It has Lisa's signature and a note that says "Priority removal authorized." I dial the non-emergency line and explain the situation. The dispatcher says an officer will be there within 20 minutes. I tell the driver an officer is on the way. "If you tow this car before they get here, you are going to be part of a police report." He hesitates, then unhooks the lift and steps back. Fine. I will wait. Lisa appears from across the street, walking over with her booklet in hand. I told you this would happen. You do not get an opinion, you get a fine schedule. I turn to face her and pull out the printed copy of the attorney email. Lisa, I have proof that you were warned to stop issuing tow orders without management approval. You ignored that warning, and now I am going to hand this to the officer when they get here, and I am going to ask for an incident number. Her face goes pale for just a second, and then she recovers. That email is confidential board correspondence. You are not allowed to have it. I shake my head. It was forwarded to me by another resident, and it is going to be part of the police report. She clicks her pen rapidly, the sound frantic now, and I can see her trying to figure out her next move. The officer arrives about 15 minutes later. He is calm and professional, and he listens while I explain the situation. I hand him the folder with all my evidence, including the attorney email, the work order, and the timeline of events. He flips through it and nods. Okay. This is a civil dispute, so I cannot force anyone to do anything, but I can document it. He turns to the tow driver. Do you have written authorization from the property management company? The driver shakes his head. Just this work order from the board. The officer makes a note. And ma'am, are you the board secretary? Lisa nods stiffly. Yes. He makes another note. I am going to write this up as a dispute over HOA enforcement procedures. Both parties have presented documentation. I recommend you work this out through your management company or the courts. Then he hands me a business card with the incident number written on the back. If you need this for a legal filing, reference this number. I thank him, and he leaves. The tow driver unhooks my car completely and drives off without another word. Lisa stands there for a moment, staring at me, and then she turns and walks back to her house. I do not say anything. I just take more photos and add the incident number to my evidence folder. That afternoon, I get a call from the management company. It is the property manager, a woman named Angela, who sounds exhausted. Mister, we need to talk about what is happening in your neighborhood. I have received over a dozen complaints in the last 24 hours, all related to parking enforcement. Can you come in tomorrow morning for a meeting? I agree, and she gives me a time. When I hang up, I feel like maybe, finally, someone is paying attention. The next morning, I show up at the management office with my full evidence folder. Angela is waiting for me in a small conference room. She has a stack of files on the table, and she looks stressed. Okay, let me be straight with you. The board has a lot of discretion under the HOA rules, but they are supposed to follow certain procedures. What you have described, and what these other residents have described, suggests that those procedures are not being followed. I am going to launch a formal review, and I am going to require the board to submit all enforcement actions to me for approval before they proceed. That should stop any further issues while we sort this out. I nod. What about the fines and the tow threats? She makes a note. Any fines issued under the disputed policy will be suspended pending the review. And I am going to send a memo to all contracted vendors saying they cannot proceed without my written approval. I feel a wave of relief, but I know this is not over yet. Lisa is not going to give up her power without a fight. I thank Angela and leave, and when I get home, I find a new notice taped to my door. It is from Lisa, and it says that I am being summoned to an emergency board meeting tomorrow night to address my interference with HOA operations. The notice says that failure to appear will result in automatic fines. I take a photo and forward it to Angela. She replies within the hour, "Ignore that notice. The board does not have the authority to hold an emergency meeting without my approval, and I have not approved one. If they proceed, they will be in breach of their management contract." I feel a grim satisfaction. Lisa is losing control, and she knows it. The next evening, I get a group text from one of the neighbors. "There is a board meeting happening right now at the clubhouse. Lisa called it anyway. A bunch of us are heading over. You should come." I grab my folder and drive over to the clubhouse. When I walk in, the room is packed. There are at least 30 residents sitting in folding chairs, and Lisa is standing at the front with a microphone, reading from a printed complaint. She is in the middle of a sentence when she sees me walk in, and she stops. "You are not allowed to be here. This is a closed session." One of the neighbors stands up. "Lisa, this is a community meeting. You cannot close it." She clicks her pen and raises her voice. "I am the board secretary, and I am telling you that this meeting is for board business only. Residents who are under investigation are not permitted to attend." Another neighbor shouts, "Under investigation for what? Parking in his own driveway?" The room erupts in crosstalk, and I can see Lisa starting to lose her composure. I walk up to the front and hold up my folder. "Lisa, I have copies of the attorney email for everyone here. The one where he told the board to stop issuing tow orders without proper authorization. The one you ignored." I start handing out copies to the people in the front row, and they pass them back. Lisa's face turns red. "That is confidential board correspondence. You are violating privacy rules." One of the neighbors, a woman named Karen, who is on the board with Lisa, stands up and takes a copy. "Lisa, is this real? Did the attorney actually send this?" Lisa does not answer. She just stands there clicking her pen, and I can see her trying to come up with something to say. Finally, she snaps, "We can tow first and explain later. That is how enforcement works. If you do not like it, move." The room goes silent, and then someone in the back starts clapping slowly. It is sarcastic, and it catches on. Within seconds, half the room is clapping sarcastically, and Lisa looks like she is about to explode. Karen, the other board member, takes the microphone from Lisa. "Okay, everyone calm down. Clearly we have a problem here, and we need to address it properly. I am calling for an immediate vote to suspend all parking enforcement actions until the management company completes their review. All in favor?" Almost every hand in the room goes up. The motion passes, and Lisa slams her booklet onto the table. "You are all making a huge mistake. This neighborhood is going to turn into a parking lot, and it will be your fault." Then she storms out, and the room erupts in applause. That night, I get an email from Angela. The board has been placed under formal review, and Lisa has been stripped of her access to the vendor portal and the enforcement system. All future enforcement actions will require my written approval and a signed work order from this office. Additionally, I am recommending that the board adopt a new parking policy with a neutral appeal process and clear proof standards. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I read the email 3 times, and then I forwarded it to Jake. "We did it, man. She is out." Jake replies with a string of celebration emojis and a note. "Now you just have to make sure it sticks. File in small claims and go after her for the costs. Make it hurt." I spend the next week gathering receipts for everything I spent on this fight. Printing costs, mileage to the management office, time off work for meetings. It adds up to about $800, not counting the emotional toll. I file a small claims case against Lisa personally and against the HOA, asking for reimbursement of costs, a formal apology, and a policy change. The court date is set for 3 weeks out, and I spend that time preparing my testimony and organizing my evidence. When the court date arrives, I show up early and set up my folder on the plaintiff table. Lisa walks in about 10 minutes before the hearing starts. She is wearing the same blue blazer, and she has her booklet with her, but she looks tired. She does not make eye contact with me. The judge is a middle-aged man with reading glasses, and he listens while I walk through the timeline. I show him the attorney email, the work orders, the incident report, and the emails from other residents. When I finish, he turns to Lisa. "Ma'am, do you have a response?" She stands up and starts talking about how the HOA has a duty to maintain standards and how my car was a legitimate concern. The judge cuts her off. "Ma'am, I have an email here from your own attorney telling you to stop this exact behavior. Did you follow that advice?" She hesitates. The board has discretion to enforce rules as we see fit. The judge shakes his head. "Not when your attorney tells you to stop. That is called ignoring legal counsel, and it is going to cost you." He rules in my favor on all counts. The HOA is ordered to pay my costs, issue a formal apology, and adopt a new parking policy with a neutral appeal process and proof standards. Additionally, Lisa is personally ordered to pay $200 in punitive damages for acting in bad faith. The judge adds, "Ma'am, you are lucky this did not escalate further. If you continue this behavior, you could face criminal harassment charges." The gavel comes down, and I walk out feeling like I just won the lottery. Over the next few weeks, I watch the neighborhood change. The new parking policy gets posted on every bulletin board, and it is clear and fair. Guest parking requires a simple online registration, and enforcement actions require photographic proof and a signature from the management company. There are no more surprise tows, no more arbitrary fines. People start parking without fear again, and the group chat goes quiet for the first time in months. Lisa resigns from the board a month later. The resignation letter is short and does not mention the lawsuit, but everyone knows why. A new board secretary is elected, a guy named Tom who works in IT and promises to run everything by the book. At the first meeting under the new policy, he introduces himself and says, "My job is to make sure the rules are applied fairly and consistently. If you have a problem, we will work it out." No surprises, no games. The room applauds, and I feel like the neighborhood is finally healing. I run into Marcus one afternoon while I am checking my mail. He grins and gives me a fist bump. "Man, you did it. You actually took her down. I heard she tried to fight the ruling, but the management company told her to drop it or they would terminate the entire board contract." I laugh. "Yeah, I heard that too." He shakes his head. "I wish I had fought back when it happened to me. But I am glad you did. It changed everything." We chat for a few more minutes and then he heads back to his house. I stand there in the golden hour light, watching the sun bounce off the windshields and mirrors, and I feel a sense of peace I have not felt in months. The refinance goes through without a hitch. The title search comes back clean, and the lender never asks about the HOA. I close on the new loan and celebrate with a quiet dinner at home. My job at the municipal garage keeps me busy, and I am grateful for the routine. Every time I pull into my driveway now, I glance at the spot where the tow truck used to idle, and I feel a little surge of satisfaction. The system worked. It took time, it took effort, and it took a lot of documentation, but it worked. A few months later, I get an email from Angela. She says the management company is hosting a community meeting to review the first quarter under the new parking policy, and she wants to know if I will attend and share my experience. I agree, and when I show up, the room is full again. This time, the energy is different. People are calm, engaged, and hopeful. Angela introduces me, and I talk about the importance of documentation, the value of standing up for yourself, and the power of community organizing. When I finish, the room applauds, and a woman in the back raises her hand. What would you say to someone who is going through the same thing right now? I think for a second, and then say, do not give up. It feels impossible when you are in the middle of it, but if you stay focused and keep records, you can win. And you are not alone. There are always other people who have been through the same thing, and they will help you if you ask. The applause is louder this time, and I sit down feeling like maybe, just maybe, I made a difference. The funny karma moment comes about 6 months after the court ruling. I am at the grocery store, and I see Lisa in the checkout line. She is buying a single bag of groceries, and she looks like she is trying to avoid being noticed. I do not say anything, but as I am leaving, I overhear her on the phone. She is talking to someone about a parking ticket she got downtown, and she is furious. They towed my car for being 2 inches over the line. 2 inches! I did not even see the sign. How is that fair? I have to stifle a laugh as I walk past. The universe has a sense of humor, and apparently it decided that Lisa needed a taste of her own medicine. I do not stop to gloat, but I do smile the whole way home. A few weeks later, I get a final letter from the management company. It is a formal notice that the HOA has completed the policy review and has implemented all the changes required by the court. The letter includes a personal apology from the board, signed by Tom and the other new members. It says, "We recognize that past enforcement actions caused unnecessary stress and financial harm to residents, and we are committed to ensuring that this never happens again. Thank you for your patience and your willingness to hold us accountable." I filed the letter in my evidence folder, which is now stored in a box in my closet, just in case I ever need it again. The tow vendor that Lisa used to work with loses their contract with the HOA. Angela tells me that the management company conducted an audit and found that the vendor had been charging inflated rates and processing tows without proper authorization. The vendor is blacklisted from working with any properties managed by the company, and a new vendor is brought in with strict oversight. It turns out that a tow vendor refusing to act without proper authorization was exactly what the neighborhood needed to break Lisa's grip on enforcement. The final consequence for Lisa comes quietly. The management company disciplines the board representative who enabled her abuse of power, and the rep is removed from their position. It turns out that the rep had been ignoring complaints for months and had even coached Lisa on how to frame her enforcement actions to avoid management oversight. When the audit uncovered the email trail, the rep was terminated, and the company issued a statement promising better oversight in the future. Karen, the other board member who stood up during the meeting, later tells me that Lisa tried to log into the vendor portal one more time after she resigned, only to find that she had been stripped of access to the portal admin tools. She showed up at the management office demanding to be reinstated, and Angela told her that her access had been permanently revoked as part of the settlement. Lisa threatened to sue, but her attorney apparently told her she did not have a case. she never followed through. I still live in the neighborhood, and I still park in my driveway without fear. The permit decal is still crooked by about 3 degrees, and no one cares. The new board is transparent, responsive, and fair. The group chat is quiet most of the time, and when people do post, it is usually about community events or recommendations for local contractors. It is everything an HOA should be, and nothing like what it was under Lisa. I think about the whole experience sometimes, late at night when I am winding down from a long shift. It was exhausting, stressful, and expensive, but it was also worth it. Not just for me, but for Marcus, and for all the other neighbors who had been pushed around and told they did not have a choice. We did have a choice, and we made it. We fought back, we documented everything, and we won. And now the neighborhood is a better place because of it. The refinance saved me about $300 a month on my mortgage, and I used the first few months of savings to take a weekend trip to the coast. I stood on the beach and watched the waves, and I felt lighter than I had in years. No tow threats, no arbitrary fines, no Lisa clicking her pen and telling me I did not get an opinion. Just the sound of the ocean and the knowledge that I had stood up for myself and won. When I got back, I ran into Tom at the mailboxes. He told me that the new parking policy had been so successful that the management company was rolling it out to other properties. He said, "You started something, man. People are paying attention now." I shrugged and said, "I just wanted to park in my own driveway." He laughed and said, "Yeah, but you did not stop there. That is what made the difference." We shook hands and I headed inside, feeling like maybe, just maybe, the whole ordeal had been worth it. I did not mention my evidence yet, because I wanted her to repeat the story first. That was the key. I let Lisa dig her own hole, and then I handed the officer on scene the proof and asked for an incident number immediately. It was the turning point, the moment when everything shifted in my favor. And when I think back on the whole fight, that is the moment I am most proud of. Not because I was clever, but because I stayed calm and let the evidence speak for itself. The HOA lost in small claims, paid my fees, and was forced to adopt a clear parking and towing policy with a neutral appeal process and proof standards. Lisa got stripped of access to the portal admin tools, and the management company disciplined the rep who enabled it. The tow vendor that refused to act without proper authorization became the new standard, and the whole system changed because of it. Karen's own clip, the video someone took at the meeting of her yelling that line about towing first and explaining later, ended up proving the opposite of her claim. It showed that she was acting out of spite, not policy, and it became Exhibit A in the court filing. The neighborhood is quiet now, in the best way. People park, they come and go, they live their lives without fear. The golden hour glare still bounces off windshields and mirrors, and the wood grain and dirt texture detail in the fences and posts still catches the light just right. But there is no tire clamp snapping shut mid-argument, no tow truck idling at the curb, no Lisa with her booklet and her pen clicking in frustration. Just a normal suburban street in Vancouver, Washington, where people can park in their own driveways without being harassed. And that, more than anything, feels like victory. I will catch you in the next story.